What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Sunday Trialogues. I am joined by not just my two co-hosts, but also a guest. We've got Nick from the Occult Rejects here today.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a great show. We got Ricardo back and we got Ethan. So, guys, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Ricardo, go ahead.
So, good morning. My name is Ricardo Calvario. My tag on X is, as you can see in the screen. I just want to plug in the Institute for Natural Philosophy and our great podcast presented by Jacqueline and Sarah.
They got him. They got him. We were just commenting on this. He's got internet issues. Go ahead, Ethan.
Well, I'm glad that we got Nick here because he's responsible for bringing the three of us together ultimately. So thank you, Nick, for everything. I'm easy to find on all the social media, writing frequently, and so on and so forth. Appreciate everybody. Ricardo, you cut out if you're still there. So
Okay, so where did I cut out?
Institute
right after Institute.
Okay, so plugging in the Institute for Natural Philosophy and our podcast presented by Sarah and Jacqueline, that is The Universe Unveiled, that you can find on YouTube and on X too. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, Nick from the Occult Rejects, available on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and all major podcasts. Thank you very much, sir.
And you guys know me. I'm the Headless Giant. You can find me at the Headless Giant on X and on YouTube, obviously. And if you have any sort of weird occult stories, I love to get them. So send them to the Headless Giant podcast at gmail.com, and we will read those on Thursdays. So now that we're doing the trialogues, I think this is more of a tetralogue. You can call it a quadrilogue, but I like tetralogue better. Who's got stuff to bring? Ethan, did you have something?
I had a couple of little ideas. Please, Ricardo.
No, I just want to say one thing. So to stop these issues, I'm going to move into the desk and connect by cable, so it solves the problem.
there you go.
Okay. So I'm going to be off for 2 minutes or something like that. Okay. I'll be right back.
Well, one thing I was thinking of is the overall atmosphere that is similar to 1984, but more technological, effectively, and less severe. But one of the elements from 1984 is the memory hole, right? Where actually Winston Smith, the main character, his whole job among many of his coworkers is to rewrite and delete information. I think often that doesn't happen overtly that we see, right, pertaining to any number of conspiratorial subjects or controversial circumstances. We don't see it overtly eliminated, but it definitely is less arranged by conversation and more by algorithm, of course, right? With the social media companies kind of control over information distribution, or rather what becomes important, what goes viral. And another thing I know that everyone has noticed before, I've heard other people talking about it, but I wonder maybe we could come up with a phrase for this circumstance, but there'll be like this whole, controversial subject. When you look into Stargate, it's this whole intelligence operation, and then also now it's a renamed project with AI. So when you look into it, you get what is the topical new subject, or several different movie titles will be something that's like a hot thing that people like, you get shadow banned for talking about, or like it's this
Ethan, I think I've got a good term. I've got a good term for this. So instead of memory holing, it's attention holing. They're attention holing you. And I was
That's
actually
good.
going to bring that up too.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, there's this it's an element of the information steering that all of us see. Again, I've heard people talking about it, and the attention hole is a suitable phrase for it. Certainly, they'll literally, even like the term oligarchy, like for a while there they didn't do this fictionalization idea with it, but whenever it was said, it was in reference to a Russian rich person. Well, there's plenty of oligarchical behavior going on in the United States and elsewhere in the world besides Russia. But for quite some time, it was, if you heard that the O word, it was in reference to a wealthy Russian oligarch. Which, again, not to say that they don't exist and don't have fault in the world, but they're among the many oligarchs. So yeah, attention hole, I think, nails it.
Right, but that's how language changes too. Like over time, people get attention holed into a certain way of thinking, and then pretty soon that way of thinking pretty much dies off with their generation. So, for example, the word okay, right? This was created in the 1830s, and it was from this fashion at the time where they would misspell the words by using a letter that was like the letter that began the word. So okay actually comes from the word all and correct, and so they put those together and it created okay, because they replaced the A with an O and the C with a K. I don't know why they were doing that, but it was in a newspaper article, and they had whole columns like this. It was like their gossip column was just all misspelled on purpose to create these sort of weird effects. And so all correct came out with this neutral version, which is okay.
And wasn't it? I remember it was a okay
Yeah.
for a lot of times, right?
Okay.
Right. What does it mean though? Like, do any of these,
Right.
It's one of those things where if you sit down and think about it for a second, it's just like, what is okay? What is that? And that's the question everybody asks each other too. What, are you okay? What does that even mean? It's kind of strange. But it's definitely a sign of attention holding, because, it wouldn't have taken off at all if they didn't have newspapers, and the newspaper influenced people to start using this weird version, and then something basically without any meaning has been passed on generation after generation, and lots of words are lost too. I mean, I could start naming words from the early part of the century that just don't get used anymore, like the word perfidy. Do you know what perfidy means?
I've heard it before, actually. No.
Is it difficult or tense?
It means disloyal. So if you think about the Marine logo, it says Semper Fidelis. Perfidy is like not being loyal. So Fidelis would mean forever loyal, and then Fidelis means not loyal. It's only loyal if you're getting something back. So perfidy is kind of that interesting mix, and it's gone. Nobody even uses it or knows what it means, but it's a perfect term to go along with a lot of shit that we see in our society today. People only have loyalty based as far as what they're getting out of it.
Yeah, it's all become transactional. There's very little even consideration of honor, and even when I might bring that up, it's like almost like a what? Who talks about that? What are you talking about? But yeah, beyond that, I think principles. If you hold your principles, then you don't get swayed by all these steerings, I think, as much. But I don't think that is as commonplace of a kind of philosophical perspective as much as like partisanship is. Principle, partisanship is more attractive, I think.
Well, in 1984, they were kind of saying that if you can eliminate the words that communicate these ideas, then you can eliminate those ideas as well. And that kind of happens every generation. Like we're losing tons of words, we're getting tons of words. Maybe that attention idea, not everybody can be focused on a lot of things, but if you can get everybody focused generally in one direction, you can eliminate a lot of ideas from the mix.
And that's a great point. The simplification and elimination of language leading to a redundancy of thinking, right? Like I think we see this in the education trend over the last many decades in the United States and probably globally, that people are not using big vocabulary as much as they might have in the past. And certainly, like if you communicate with young people nowadays, it's like, I mean, I hate to sound like my elder generation, but it's, what are you even talking about? It's like low key like low key what like I don't know, just a lot of the redundancy and inability to communicate. I think it is becoming more and more stark.
Brain rot. Brain rot became its own language within a year, and now kids are kind of speaking that back and forth to each other, no cap, and all that other stuff type shit, and it's just nothing but brain rot now. So it's like a whole new vocabulary, a whole new lexicon, and people are making
they
fun
don't
of
say anything. None of it is like really meaningful. It's just like there's a term for it, I forget, but it's just like words that are just add-ons without much meaning.
Filler.
Yeah, but
Fillers.
is it enriching to our language? It isn't. So
That's why it's called brain rot.
yeah, so it's a decline in the ability to perhaps not in the ability to communicate, because these people are clearly managing to communicate through this shortened and more simple way of speaking, for them at least, because I couldn't understand it for sure. I still have trouble with the like OMG and all of those things that we used today. Like I just learned yesterday, and that makes me probably a bit stupid, the meaning of goat, because I've been hearing on the trip that I made for communication between even the cameraman and I didn't understand what they mean. I thought it was something of the trade or something like that, and then I realized that it's greatest of all time or something like that, right? Goat, it's the goat. I thought it is the expiatory guy, because that's what the goat means. It's or to me at least, it was what goat means. It's a guy that takes the fall. It's a guy that takes the blame. It's the goat. But apparently now it has a different meaning.
That's interesting. Sarah brings up 6'7". So 6'7" is now a meme, and it comes from really, really esoteric sources. Like some guy mentioned how tall this other guy was, and the expression on his face carried a certain type of feeling that they translated into a meme. So 6'7" now means something, and when you use it, other people who know kind of give you the nod because they're in on the esoteric meaning behind the whole thing. But who has time to map all these things out, especially something as innocuous as two numbers stuck together?
Sure, but there are people defending that, for instance, emojis is enriching the communication, because it's a new form. Some even related to ancient pictographs like hieroglyphs, or which I find interesting. It's again, it's a point of view. So exactly as you were talking about good and evil and morality, basically, it's always it's not a fixed thing for everybody. It changes from place to place, from culture to culture, from perception to perception. So it's all interesting in terms of language and communication and understanding of what it means.
I'm convinced language started out as an inside joke that just spread. They couldn't keep it a secret.
Well, most academics consider that language came from the need to trade, not for education or establishing rules in a community, but for trade, which I'm not sure, but
It makes sense. You gotta move goods between places. But this also brings up the concept of maybe primordial telepathy, right? So in the telepathy tapes and a lot of these other things, you understand that some of what they've been doing to experiment with this stuff has exposed that there are vestigial parts of the brain that we don't use that maybe early man had more exercise and control over that might have assisted in telepathic communication. And when language kind of erupted, we kind of lost control of developing those sensors as children. So now we don't have telepathic communication. And it's because we overuse the language instead of using the rest of our brains that did more to it.
I
So
agree. I agree, but
kind of a devolution or a downhill
yeah.
slide.
But it still happens
Into brain
because
rot.
it still happens because if you go to the city of Alatri in Italy, you have these 9 gates that are all oriented to astronomical positions. And when they did the archaeoacoustic testing, they use a special type of camera whose sensor is modified to detect the movement of molecules of air. And this tells them where the magnetic fields are, right? So all the 9 gates, because of where it's placed and how it was engineered, and this sounds like woo-woo, but it's reality, it has a magnetic vortex on each of the gates by the medium size of the head that tunes everybody's brain to 110 megahertz. So what happens inside the city is people, did you talk to me? Because they start listening to one another, and people go there because they know that they see things, they hear things, right? And it's an enormous city that had this technology active. Now it's just dormant, but they still can sometimes feel what that other person is speaking to them, and this will allow them to know if a stranger had evil intentions or bad intentions of doing something, because it would be out of tune and they can all sense each other within the community. So not only, I think you are absolutely right when you say that language replaced this. I think it comes out of a need when the megalithic world ended and the power of the megaliths stopped. So they need a new means of communication, and so language became more and more prevalent, and they lost this. So perhaps it's not just a matter of the brain, but it's also a matter of architecture and how we establish this kind of technology. But the fact that we started using language obviously took a part. It's like when someone is right-handed and breaks his arm, has to use the left one, and he found out that the left one can do the same things with a little bit of practice, because the brain creates new neural connections, right? So in this case, it's the contrary. We are losing those neural connections because we don't use them, right? But they are still there, and these sites prove it. Sorry, I made it too long.
No, you're good. But I was gonna ask Nick. Nick, do you kind of see like a connection between animal telepathy and sort of what we were operating on before? So animals don't use language in the same way. Like they're not making words and stuff, but somehow they're able to communicate, and they do it pretty effectively, even across species. They kind of know what the other ones are doing if they want to communicate. And you know,
No, that is I do like that idea. I have thought that before. I mean, animals don't have to really. I mean, there's certain things that they do that I think they understand, like what the other one's trying to get at. But I mean, I don't think they have a specific language vocally. Yeah, I do wonder about thought and if humans were like that at some point, or if it's more of like just being able to read someone's energy and that's enough to understand like what you're dealing with.
an emotional component.
Yeah. I've even wondered, like, is that why some animals sometimes will react different to different people? It's because it's what the person's carrying around with them. Why would a cat that, sometimes is good with people won't like one person? You know what I'm saying? There's probably a reason for that.
Right. It might be even something attached to them too.
Oh, yeah. Or they're just an evil piece of shit,
Right. Right. Yeah, they can pick up on that shit. And I think, if humans had something like that, only more developed, right, then you could see how that would, come into telepathy. And in some ways, I think they're working on ways of activating those vestigial parts of the brain. Because if they can, why not? Why not try? But the ultimate conspiracy would be a bunch of people who all have telepathy, So they could all be mobilized without ever saying a single word over, a lot of distance, or I don't know how far telepathy is able to go. I mean, is there a proximity limit on that? You know,
Well, I
these
mean
are all
the
questions.
idea of remote viewing, right? This is a psychic or intuitive practice that has been engaged by governments, and they kind of, we give this up, or we ain't using this before, but no, actually we're going back to it because it's, the most, you know, um, it seems fanciful, but it's a really like operational step-by-step orientation that uses potential intuition. I mean, it's very, very interesting.
Well, we get back to the experiments of Rupert Sheldrake, and there are two that are relevant to this case. One of them is the experiment that he made, that is, can we say who is calling? So do we know who is calling us at a certain point? So he made this study, and mathematical probability proves that we still have the ability to know who is calling us before we picked up. There is the t-shirt. And another test was done between people and their animals. So this particular dog, as soon, so they changed the itinerary of the person that gets out of the house. They didn't follow the scheduling usually of the time of coming out of work and so on. And so what they did is, for several times, they would call the person, the owner of the dog, and say, now you go home, right? And the second that the person produced the thought that I'm going home, the dog moved into the window at the exact same time. So this is to answer what you were saying. There is no distance between an established connection, right? So, and the person that is calling you can be on the other side of the world. So, and you still
My
know who
cat,
is calling you.
my cat always knows when I'm getting home.
See?
Always knows. Yep.
Oh, you know what dogs is? A lot of they're saying, I think that is as your scent starts to dwindle off, that's when like they have like they can figure out when you're coming home by like how long your scent is gone, because they're used to like, I guess, like a work schedule. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, some weird shit like that I was reading.
Yeah, but in this case, they changed the time. It could be go out just 2 hours, or stay for more 2 hours or 3 hours after the normal hour. And it's only when they decided I'm going home that the dog would move into the window. So
Oh, that is bugged out.
yeah, and they did the same. They had the same results with several dogs, but the one featured, they actually filmed it and show it. And there's another one, the rats test. So they present. Let's suppose that in Japan, this was peer reviewed and retested because they didn't believe this. They gave a new maze to a group of rats in, let's suppose, in Japan, right? And they took 2 hours and 15 minutes to solve the puzzle. They then repeat the same test with another group of rats or mice in Austria. They took 1 minute and 45. They then repeat it in the United States, and 1 hour and 45, and they take 1 hour. And it keeps decreasing each time the experiment is repeated, and the mice are not related in any way. So this shows that by doing a task, there is some information that is uploaded that can be accessed when you're trying to solve the same problem. So when we speak about inventions that are being recreations of that are lost in time and then they're recreated, we might be talking about the same thing. So knowledge is not lost; it's somewhere, and there is a way to access it.
Well, this might sound weird, but they've actually seen the same results when it comes to chemical reactions.
Exactly.
So in a lot of these nuclear tests, they've got exotic particles that they don't know ever existed in nature. And the first few times that they're dealing with these things, the results are entirely erratic, but they seem to normalize over time. And why would chemistry, one of the most physical sciences there are, have a hard time processing, new chemical reactions? Wouldn't it all just be mathematical? Why would it have different phases or different reactions depending on how many times it's been done before?
Sure, and you have the same in crystals. Each time they develop a new type of crystal, the second time they make it is quicker and quicker and quicker. So it's like the crystal matrix itself gets transferred from without having any time or space between them. And the second time they try to create the same type of crystal, it grows faster, and then it grows faster, and so on. So it happens in all, apparently, in all domains of life and matter. So
Well, there
that's
has to be, I think there's two ways of looking at it. The first one is simulation. We're in a massive simulation, and the simulation takes time to boot up these images. And so it doesn't know what to predict yet. So the computer's just kind of figuring it out. And that's why we get this reaction. I think there's another explanation. If we live in a holographic universe where everything has this quantum entanglement to it, then when you're doing something new, the structure of the universe has to find what's going on with the substance for it to fully form and do its thing, right? So this is more of like maybe there's a subdimensional kind of a lattice work that we live in, right? That's sort of what keeps us all together. And it would be stuff like the Fibonacci sequence and, pi. These numbers have kind of merge their way into physical reality with all of these shapes that come from their algorithms.
And
So
don't you think that the simulation and the holographic might be related to one another?
oh yeah, I'm just saying if you're going to describe it, there could be two ways of looking at it, but a hologram is a natural thing, like that happens naturally. So if it's happening naturally here, I mean, maybe we exist inside of something else, but I don't think it's actually suggestive of that. But if you go to the simulation model, then the simulation model might explain that as well. But at the very least, you can get up to that holographic level and start to understand, string.
Yeah, it just occurred to me while you were speaking that the holographic might be the physical representation of the simulation. The way the
Right?
simulation
holodeck.
comes into existence is holographically, right? Because you can't actually touch anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I'm-
You can
I'm
press
sure
your
you guys-
fingers as much as you
Yeah, not
want.
touching it, fucking nothing actually.
Nothing. It's just electromagnetic.
Fucking
And we're
wild.
mostly
you
empty space.
Have you seen the recent discussion online about lasers and people on ayahuasca?
No.
Have you seen this?
Lasers and ayahuasca. That's
Oh,
interesting.
seeing
Go
shit
on.
like
Oh,
in
yeah.
the, seeing code.
Yeah, like they're
Deep.
literally all of them. Apparently, this is the discussion anyway. That no matter who it is, when they have these two aspects come together, the drug and a laser, they're all seeing the same thing, which is very much they're describing it like the Matrix readout of the green screen production orientation of the simulation, if you will. Very, very strange. Again, I don't know if it's just whatever, but Library of the Untold says I can attest. I think he might be talking about what I'm saying.
Well, that's interesting because I always suspected that lasers and hallucinogens went together, but you come from the rave scene. That's sort of the way you see the world.
Oh, okay. I got that. So that's the best thing to do. Fill yourself with drugs and then go into a place with very loud music and lots of lights flashing on your eyes. I think that's very wise.
experience.
Something else that reminds me of the red telescopic infrared sights that were used in Vietnam. Have you guys ever heard this story?
No,
Yeah.
go on.
Supposedly, there's infrared, which means below red of the spectrum, right? And now they don't use that; they use green. It's a green in night vision.
I can help you out with that, actually. So
Vietnam,
what they had,
has experience. Break it down.
yeah, what they had was night vision picks up this I think it's ultraviolet, right? Infrared is where everything is in heat vision, and that's on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But they had to choose what color spectrum to have this image come through. You could have it in black and white. You could have it in, I'm sure you guys have seen the black and white night vision, but they chose to put it into green, right? The original, what they thought originally is maybe red would be better, since they use red light for everything in the Army. So if you've got flashlights, they've all got a red light filter. If you've got vehicles, they have these red light filters, because red light doesn't go very far at night. So that's what you need to use for light discipline, so you're not getting sniped at, from miles away. So I think that what they wanted to do was have the red light inside of the visors, so that they could, actually match everything else that's low light conditions. But the problem is they started freaking out with this red light in their eyes all the time. And they were seeing like demons and stuff materialize in front of this, night vision stuff. So they had to change the color spectrum over to green, which makes more sense because we could actually see more shades of green than any other color. And if you think about, evolving in the jungle, you would have more shades of green being important and significant to you as you're searching through these plants for something edible. So they went with the green color spectrum because the other one causes visions of demons and stuff.
And the black and white might also, because you see our eyes become like feline eyes, because they shine a lot. They reflect the light somehow, and that might be freaky after some time, looking at someone's face with their eyes shining like they're glowing. So, and the green takes that out.
Is that why they always use green in ghost hunting? I always thought about why they always use a green tinge.
That's why they're using the green tinge, because that's what the Army started to use.
Just fucking regular light, just white.
Well, if you think about black and white, you've got grays in the middle, and that's where you get all the shades going between the two. But if you've got shades of green, you could actually pick up more shades of green than you can gray. So from green to black, you've got more color possibilities and more shape possibilities than you would if it was even black and white.
It makes it easier to pick up shit visually.
Right, more detail, at least a little bit. And plus it wouldn't wash out as easily too. So when you have bright flashes of light coming through these goggles, all it takes is one big flash and you're blinded for a while, So
And I wonder, this might be sounding off, but I wonder why they don't give them some form of cannabis, because it's proven that it widens your field of view and betters your 3D perception of reality. So to a warrior, it would be...
I know the answer, I think, because it would make people not want to fight for a government.
Well, in small doses. Just to increase...
Well, they do give snipers diazepam, which is an antispasmodic, which helps control breathing a lot better, so they can make better shots. So, but you don't want to drive or operate heavy equipment on diazepam.
Well, I know that in the ice Olympics, in the Winter Olympics, you have those triathlons that they have to ski, and then they have to stop and shoot at targets. They take a drug called Inderol that has no other effect than to regulate your heartbeat and take your shivers out, and doesn't appear on tests. So they take that, so when they stop 2 or 3 breathings and they are not shaking it, and they are able to shoot at the targets. Because if you can imagine, after all of that exercise, stopping to point at something, you are still running, your muscles are still all over the place.
I always thought that was the most blatantly militaristic of all of the Olympic sports. Because if you think about, javelin, hammer throw, all these other things, those are ancient forms of warfare that you're watching, even doing the running, right? Having these foot races and everything. Fencing, yeah, you have sort of like the whole progression of military warfare kind of in that whole thing. And then at the very end, we've got people on skis shooting targets, which that's what they train at Fort Drum, New York, is 10th Mountain Division is all about alpine warfare, which was sort of like the final frontier in World War II. Is being able to control these mountainous summits is incredibly valuable, especially through troop movements and stuff. So yeah, I think you kind of see that whole progression playing out with all these different events.
Well,
And
you
that's how
mentioned. Go on, Nathan.
Please.
Go on.
No,
No,
please,
please.
please.
Okay,
I
I
was
just
just going
saying.
to say that the Finnish, a smaller
Cheeks.
country, were able to fight off the Russians, a bigger country, because of their skiing and rifling ability. Sorry, Ricardo.
No. I was saying that you mentioned fencing, and I find it ironic that what he used in Olympic, and no disrespect to the people that practice it, it has no applicability to the real world because you never fight in a straight line. Fencing is all about going round and round and moving. So no one fights like that. And the fact that the swords are very pliable also doesn't correspond to reality. So it's an art, but doesn't serve anything but the purpose of fighting in the Olympics, like moving forward and back. Because in reality, and these people obviously know how to fight outside of that domain, but it's just ridiculous. Every other sport has a ring, and I don't understand why fighting doesn't have the circle. There is called la verdadera destreza. That's the name of the discipline that is practiced within a circle, and you cannot move the circle. And the better you get, you move to a smaller circle and start fighting in a smaller circle, right? So that would be an interesting modality to watch in the Olympics, but they just do that back and forward. Well, no disrespect, but it has no applicability to reality.
Did not know that.
I'm looking
I
at
always feel like I was
Bushido.
like, what's the point of the I guess it being pliable, like you're saying. I was like, I guess that's so you don't hurt yourself. I just always kind of found that funny too.
No, because in practice on a fencing school, you practice with what is called a floret. That
Yeah,
is
that's it.
that it's only pliable if you put it to the ground. Or you can bend it and it returns to its original position, but it's a thick metal.
Oh,
It's not like a thin thing like they use. Right? That's why they keep having to straighten it up when they're fighting, because it's like a little piece of foil. It's just doesn't do anything. And in practice, the suits are prepared to take the floret, because the floret has a smacked end, so it's not a pointy thing, but it has hammered. The metal is hammered in the point, so it can't go through, and the suits can take it. So even slashes, so they could use it just the same. It's just the modality that they chosen to do. Perhaps it's less dangerous, but they still get hurt from time to time.
I can't find anything about Bushido, but I wanted to see if they do a fight in a straight line as well, or if they have a ring instead.
No, they fight in a very wide area, right? But the modality that you see in competition is called kempo. So it's with those long cane swords, and not with the actual bokken. That would be similar to katana, but the problem is a bokken still kills you.
Right.
It doesn't stab you, but if you take with it, it's very strong wood, so it will still kill you. That's why they use those cane suits and those long cane swords that I can't remember the name right now.
They're made out of bamboo too.
Yeah, exactly.
Those swords are.
Strips of bamboo all tied together. So it's like being smacked instead of being cut. But
Right.
it's not a straight line. They can't fight in a straight line.
Do you know about the most famous Japanese swordsman of all time that wrote the Book of Five Rings?
Exactly. One of my favorites.
He killed a guy using
Musashi
an
Miyamoto.
oar. Yeah, he killed the guy using an oar from the ship that he used to go out to the island.
Well,
he
has a very interesting way of. He never lost. He's been in 100 and something duels, and he never lost one duel. But he had a specific way to unrest his opponent. For instance, in the case of the fight that you're talking about, was probably his greatest adversary, and he used a long sword instead of a normal katana. He used the sword that he would use on horseback, that is probably this longer than the normal sword.
No, it was
So
6 foot. It was
yeah,
a total of 6 foot. That was 6 foot of steel he was going up against.
so
Normally, a samurai sword is like 4,
four and a
even
half, yeah.
then, they're incredibly hard to wield if it's your first time. Like it takes a lot of
Sure.
strength and
It's
control to
it's
get that thing working.
it's a two-sword hand. But the thing is, he always came late to the duels. And because Japan is based on respect and honoring, they would very frustrated and very upset when he got actually to the place. So they were not in full focus, right? So he used that. And that is explained in his book. And in the case of this guy, in order for upset him further, he got there 2 hours or more late, right? And instead of carrying a sword, he decided to, while he's crossing the river, he shaped the oar of the ship with his own tento. This is a small sword of the samurai. He shaped it into more or less like a sword, right? That is longer than his long sword. So he would reach him without him being able to reach. He would reach the adversary without the adversary being able to reach him. So when the fight finally starts, not only the other guy is upset because he's 2 hours plus late, he's disrespecting him by not using a sword. So he's using an oar, right? So he's even more upset. So it took some of his ability to fight, and the outreach of his oar managed for him to strike him and win the fight.
Well, he also pretended he was drunk too. So the combination of drunk, obnoxious, didn't even have a sword, had this fucking piece of wood.
Yeah.
And so it was the first hit. He's coming in and he smacks the guy right in the middle of his head and kills him instantly. And so, I mean, it was one of the most decisive battles. And after that, it was like he couldn't go anywhere without people challenging him to a duel because it was like the most well-known swordsman ever. So
You
then
have
he
to
wrote
figure
this
out,
book.
he was an orphan, right? He was raised by a
Yep.
priest, and he was a bit of a brat. Right? He had a lot of inner strength. It was very committed to not losing, but he didn't have the skill. So the skill came with a lot of practice and a lot of higher training from the priest. And he won his first duel. He was 11 years old or something like that. So he challenged a full-grown man into a fight, and he won the fight. And from that point on, he never lost. He kept traveling Japan, going from school to school, challenging the best. And
Miyamoto Musashi was definitely an inspiration for Bruce Lee as well.
I was going to say Bruce Lee infamously reacted to a challenge to a fight by saying effectively, "Oh, sure, I haven't worked out yet today. Let's go." and it's almost the same psych out as like, "Oh, you want a sword fight? I'm going to show up with a staff, or in this case, just a piece of wood and oar." That he knew was hardened by the elements, was hard enough to survive the elements. So he picked a good piece of wood. He knew it would work. But it's also like, wait. And that fight he had scheduled when challenged for a year later on
yes,
on the island.
on the
right?
island,
So
yes.
the whole year, this guy is building up. Talk about a psych out. He had a year that he psyched this guy out with, right? And he shows up drunk and with this stick with an oar. And so the guy's just like, wait, if I win, I don't even win because he doesn't have his swords. Or if I lose, now I'm losing to a guy with an oar, and he's all these things. They're just like twisted his perspective.
Well, if you think about it, it's very much the art of war.
Absolutely.
You won the battle before you go into the field. In fact, the complete victory only happens if you don't actually go into the field and battle, because you vanquish your enemy before the battle even begun. So
And I believe Sun Tzu said exactly what Musashi did in that sense. When your enemies think you're strong, act weak. When your enemies think you're weak, make them think that you're strong. Effectively, excuse my killing of the quote, but something like that.
Yes, sir. So, what were we? Who's next? Is it my turn? I think it's my turn. So, this kind of went back into the idea of the managed algorithm. I don't know about you guys, but ever since Charlie Kirk's death, there's been nothing but Christian bot farms in my feed. And that's it. It's like every other
I've
post.
been noticing that for a long time. Yeah,
You know why that happened?
Christianity. I love Christianity, but it is a strange form of Nick. Please,
It's because you entertain the bullshit, so the bot's attached to you.
It's true.
Story.
As soon
yeah,
as
if you don't talk about it, it doesn't come up.
No, I mean, you did get caught up in that shit a bit, so I'm sure the bots saw this one's going. Let's fucking keep going with them.
Right? No,
Those things have been going on
thing.
since Trump. It's just they got to find the people who are
mm-hmm.
getting into it.
Right. They want the conflict too. So if you put any negative comments, you're going to get 10 times more.
You love it. The algorithm.
Dude, I've watched bots fight. They will even fight each other. One bot will fight another bot. You go look up that account and you go look up the person, you'll see like one account for them on social media. And all their family pictures have swirled faces because it's AI.
Interesting. I noticed like I'll get very little traction on things that I post on Facebook most often. And one time I shared this meme not too long ago. It had like, what was it? The couple that got caught cheating at some concert where they're hugging each other. And instead this meme had Trump and Epstein in this embrace.
Yes, I've seen that.
And the bots just came wild, and they started a whole like argument with a bunch of my friends, and I was like, no, they're bots. I have no idea where they're coming from or how the algorithm tracked this photo, which I didn't even say anything about, had no links or anything, just the photo spurred like 1,000% increase of any traction I might have had on any other post. And they were all, I would say most all were bots. It was very strange.
Oh, they were all like triggered too, right? Like they act like fucking rabid people.
Oh yeah. They were saying these very generality kind of things. That's how I knew they were bots. It was like, oh, Clinton something. Like, wait, what? And like just this whole like not even relevant stuff. And people would argue with them. I'm like, just chill. They're not even real. Like,
so, in your opinion, what is the real objective of these farms of thousands of phones connected to whatever this machine is that makes them right?
I know what it is. I just figured it out.
Good.
In general, bringing it back to 1984, Winston asks O'Brien, what is it going to be like in the future? And he says, imagine a boot stomping on the human face forever. And he also says the point is power. The point of power is more power. So it's like, I think that's what they're really trying to obtain and maintain is power.
Changing of public's perception, is that what you mean?
That's what I
think. Yeah. All of the control of information is in order to maintain and gain power by people that are influencing the information, right?
Because we live in a time where there are guys or girls doing a lot of money on Instagram, for instance, with a girl that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people know it doesn't exist and still pay and subscribe. And
weird.
Right?
Yeah.
I never get any sirens until I'm podcasting. Never.
Sure. But it's an emergency. So,
I guess
Atlas, you figured it out. So I'm curious to hear it.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So in 1931, psychologists Winthrop and Luella Lula Kellogg conducted a controversial experiment in which they raised their 10-month-old son Donald alongside a female chimpanzee named Gua, who was 7.5 months old at the time. The goal was to investigate how environmental influence development by treating the two infants as brother and sister and raising them identically in every way, including dressing them similarly, feeding them in high chairs, and providing the same level of care and training. The experiment lasted for 9 months, during which the Kellogg's meticulously documented their observations and conducted numerous tests on both children. Gua demonstrated remarkable physical development and outperformed Donald in many tasks such as using a spoon, cup, opening doors, and walking upright. She also imitated human behaviors like hugging, kissing, showing affection, and displayed strong comprehension of language, though she could not speak. However, the experiment was terminated on March 28, 1932, after 9 months. While the exact reasons are debated, several factors are cited. Gua was becoming stronger and exhausted from the demands of the experiment, potentially less manageable. The Kellogg's were exhausted from the demands of the experiment, and Donald began imitating Gua's chimp-like vocalizations and behaviors, raising concerns about his own development.
So the human was following the ape.
Right. That's why they're having all these bots, because now we've got a whole generation of kids raised by bots. What are they going to be more like when they grow up? Bots.
Oh yeah, definitely, and they'll think what the bots tell them to think. It's exactly what's
Think
going
like
on.
the
Politics
bots
and
tell them.
bots. That's why, on social media, it's exactly what I think.
Yeah, I would say that in that particular case, the child was following the ape because the ape was to him the alpha of the group, right? Because he's the one that is ahead, the one that's doing stuff and looks stronger or better, right? In the case of the bots, I would say that these people that are new to start using the phone and so on. They know nothing and they learn from the things that appear in their screen, right? So they kept on following and use the same methods of language, of communication, of wording that they see on these bots, and so the result is what you're saying, that they turn into human bots in terms of expression.
Mind control.
Yeah. Well, they have many years of that with television.
Well, here's how cybernetics was supposed to work. So cybernetics was just supposed to be humans being trained on computers, kind of like away classes or whatever. So cybernetics is the interplay between human and computer. As you're clicking through these different choices that the computer gives you, you're engaging with that machine. Well, now it's the opposite. The machine is engaging with us and learning from our behavior. So instead of us learning from the machine, now it's this cyclical loop. It's this snake eating its own tail, right? It's constantly feeding back and forth between organic and inorganic. And so people are going to be learning in those ways. It's kind of like a whole Skinner box experiment using this is our entire planet. This is our only interaction. So that's what they're hoping for the next generation. It's just going to be that easy to train them through the attention hole,
which is ironic because the internet is the biggest accumulation of information with free access to it that humankind has ever heard of or had, at least in our historical times. So it instead of being used as such, the majority use it just to kill the time. Like whatever comes up on screen is whatever I'm going to watch. And we have the attention span problem, right? So videos that are more than 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, it's the ideal. And even then, most people don't watch them to the end because they're too used to keep on changing. I want something. They can't keep focus, right? So
you'd think they want more open platforms if they're going to try and train these things to be more realistic. I mean, if you think about it, they need to actually understand human behavior and not just what you're allowed to type on the internet. It's the only way you're going to create more convincing bots.
Well, I came from a time when we had documentaries of 6 hours, and we still said, "Oh, it already ended. I wanted more information." But now it's just 30 seconds. Next, I got it. Next, right? And most of it is just publical figures. It's not even information. It's just stuff that doesn't teach you anything, but to imitate this body language that these people use, and it's a complete mind fuckery to young people, because they act, and it's like when they started with the how do you call the music videos, the thing that they have the choreographies, and they showed how they dress and how they move and how they act. And now you have all of these people that have problems with the hands, because musicians seem like they are brain damaged and they speak with the hands in a very weird way, and people find it's cool to speak the same way, right? I've seen that in impaired children, unfortunately, but now it's a common way of expressing yourself, which I find funny.
I like the way you put that. So, Nick, did you have a topic you wanted to discuss? Anything on the top of your mind?
No, that's why I was like, oh, I really didn't even have anything. Unfortunately, I mean, just not to talk about the shit that I'm working on, but that's like the only thing I've been doing. So the only shit in my head.
Well, what's your latest project?
Fucking doing like 3 at the same time. I did finish one, and I finished one, and I'm prepared, and I'm doing it on a show Tuesday for Mike and Dave's. I'm doing vampire lore, but just to keep it real, and it'd probably be a different show anyway. But it's like sometimes when I cover topics or go on other people's shows, even on my own, I don't get through all my notes. So I recorded the show, my whole thing, and did that as well, just in case when I cover it on these other people's shows, it doesn't either I don't get finished or just whatever. So I'm doing that, and I'm going to drop that for Halloween. Then I was working on stuff for the UU show tomorrow. I mean, I have that done, but I need to go over and kind of it's 70 pages. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to cover that in the show, so I'm going to have to go through it and actually pick which herbs I want to use on the show. I did that recently, and working Giordano Bruno I'm working on. So yeah, it's a lot of shit. But the vampire lore and the incense stuff. The incense and the what it affects on the cranial nerves, nervous system.
That's a bug out topic.
Yeah. I will say about that. It's even like it really, in a couple of ways, it's just it really does reiterate things that I've said before. One, I do think a lot of stuff is woo-woo, and when you start looking at a lot of what these herbs will do if they're ingested, or if the oil is put on you, or if you inhale them, even certain things that they go along with spells would almost even give you that feeling that you've just accomplished that. And I have always said before, I guess depending on what you're trying to do in magic. Let's say I'm making a candle. I mean, I'm gonna keep it easy. I'm doing candle magic, and I'm doing it to change myself. And let's say I'm doing it to change somebody else. Would those herbs maybe actually be used to burn those so you change yourself and feel better and get your mind clear and try to do what you're trying to do, and opposed to somebody who's trying to use it to obtain something and change the will of the world around them? I again would say that's probably the difference between white magic and black magic. I know it's simple and it's going against the herbs, but maybe that's used to change you and not actually used to try to change the world around you.
Good point, but in essence, you do both, because if you change the perspective of the individual, then they're going to be making different choices.
Yeah, I know, but it's when you start justifying that, it's well, it's okay for me to be a fascist because I want everybody to believe what I want to believe. I'm not down with that either. People don't like the shit that comes out of my mouth. They don't believe me. I don't care. I don't get angry. I don't go rant. I don't go fucking create spaces over it. It is what it is. If I start pushing that shit, I'm a fascist and a black magic magician.
Right.
If I keep badgering people to tell them to think the way I think, it starts becoming that. And that's not my deal.
All the non-touch healing that have experienced always begins with essentially, do I have your permission to work with your energetic being, right? So that non-permission kind of thing, it lends to what you're saying. It's oh, you can't impede that,
Yeah, that's why I look at my shit as putting out information. If you want to listen to it, take it for granted. I mean, take heed to it, go for it. If you don't,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what some avatar on the internet thinks, honestly. Just keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? It could be a bot.
Yeah, probably not even an avatar. That's giving them too much glory.
Yeah. No, but it's just certain things between that and the crystals, which that's even worse. That's even more detailed shit. But I don't know if I want to put them both together in a book. The crystals is impressive, but I think if it was you to look at it in a different way, I do think it's impressive though. Like with some of them, I mean, you want to keep it real, just colors of crystals. You look at them long enough, the color can affect you. I mean, there is a lot of properties of crystals, but I think if you have that stuff and you have these herbs on your altar and you're doing all this shit, at some point, I just think it's just kind of psychodrama and whatever feeling, or maybe even theurgy. Like when you're doing theurgy, I mean, maybe that feeling you're getting is from the incense and not you actually doing anything.
Do you think that the ability to create magic effectively is very much based on self-actuation?
Yes.
So that's why the rituals can be changed according to whatever you believe will actually work based on what you've learned that others used.
Yeah, I think that's why some people might even do rituals differently because they're looking at it in a different way. Yeah, I mean, I would even say that's probably why Crowley has his own specific formula and rituals, is because he's looking at it in a different way than other ones were, or he's starting at a different time of the journey.
Sure. So it's not like magic is something that you can follow a formula like a recipe of culinary and you get the result of the recipe. You need to believe in what you're doing, and sometimes you have to change some of what you're doing in order for you to believe in what you're doing.
That, and I think I know it's a hard thing to get at, but if you look at my whole thing of being like an NDE or death is involved, and when I cover these herbs and the way it affects your vagus nerve and actually slows your heart rate, I mean, I think it's actually quite evident that those might be aiding in you knocking yourself off.
Sure, but in the case of using chemicals, then you don't require belief because they will act you if you.
Oh yeah, but all right, what I would say is you believe that you're gonna have this experience if you use this stuff.
Okay, good. But they do actually they have an active function on physiologically speaking, right? Because if you give 4 grams of mushrooms, it doesn't matter what is the belief of the guy; he still will have an experience, good or bad. Right? That's what I'm pointing at. But in ritual, you have to use self-actuation. You have to actually believe in what you're doing in order for it to work.
I think that helps immensely. Yeah.
Placebo effect.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the the element I just thought of a second ago is ritual placement of these crystals on different parts of the body. So you've got necklace, right? Tiara, you've got bracelets, and the way that they, interact with the different nerves, like that could be TCM in some way. I know that the Otzi, the Iceman, he had Chinese style tattoos on different meridians of his body. So where we put these gemstones in relationship to our bodies actually could be from some sort of science looking at this energy source.
That's very interesting because Otzi is not only a rare case on terms of conservation and how old he is, because it's from 3000 BC, 3000 something BC, is the fact that he was carrying very valuable items for the time, like his axe, and he had a pouch of herbs that had physiological effects by healing or whatever you want to call it, and he was killed on the back. He had an arrow that almost came through his heart, right? And whoever killed him went to him, took the shaft out, left the arrow, right, and didn't rob him. So it's considered to be the first hate crime in recorded history because he wasn't robbed. He kept all his in fact, he was crawling through the snow because all of his items, he was taking off his items, trying to reach surviving. He was dying anyway, but he crawled for a long time and left his belongings through that trail of snow. So when they found him and kept looking, he found all his stuff behind him on this trail that was marked by the falling snow that eventually buried and conserved him. So I find that very interesting. And he had a highly poisoning of arsenic. He was going to die anyway. He wasn't going to live longer unless he was able to, with his herbs, to eliminate the chemical poisoning that he was suffering. So, and probably got that because his axe, although was made of copper and not bronze, was 30% better metal than if it was just copper because of the elements that it has mixed. Then probably he was the one creating those stuff. He was the one melting it and pouring into the mold to create his own axe. All of that, I think, Otzi is a case that has much more to tell than just a guy well conserved in the snow.
Right. And that's how they know it was Chinese medicine tattoos on the outside of his body, is because of the broken bones that he had that these things were related to. So these were actually used in coordination to try and stimulate healing of this broken bone that he had.
I wanted to mention something. Nick, you mentioned this before, and one of the guests on the show mentioned it too, in relation to magic, the idea of bringing in the syncretic, whether it's color or chakra or the herbal incense or the crystals, right? Bring in this alignment into whatever the idea that you're looking for, into the energy of the spell, if you will, or the activity. And that really resonates for me in practicing Tai Chi. I try to align myself with good or powerful or whatever it is that I might be focusing on. If I am focusing on an idea, I try to get in alignment with gold and higher thinking and whatever it is, all together in unison. And that really has a magical effect. Really puts forth magic for sure.
Yeah, I think that I've even mentioned before, I do think, like, I guess when you're getting into like ceremonial stuff for myself, I used to go overboard with the correspondences. I would, the altar cloth, the candles. I might even put oils and certain herbs on the candles, certain engrave certain sigils to with what I'm working with. Sometimes the color of light bulb that I even use in the room that I was doing, I'd have it match the Sephiroth. Sometimes I had different colored robes. I had white, black. I had a purple and a green thing that I could put over it too to like change the colors and stuff. I had a bunch of different stuff. Long story short, I do think that when I was doing all that, it definitely keeps me, I guess, when I'm worried about everything and making sure everything matches, I'm very much set on the idea of what I'm doing. And then I would even just keeping it real sounds gay and odd. I mean, I would do ritual baths before my ritual. I mean, even then I'd be meditating on what I'm about to do for the next, I'd be sitting in there for a half hour thinking about what I'm about to do for another hour. Then when I go in there, everything's set up to remind me exactly what I'm trying to go for. I'm sure that helps with the whole, psycho part. But I also do think, and for myself, and I have said this before, and I've even wondered if this is why other occultists like pound their heads in with like tons of shit as young kids. I think the more stuff that's in your head before you have a magical experience, more shit will get rewired. So more shit will start making sense to you. So I think even if you're doing all that and it's just like, not really like magic, it's kind of like magic, I don't know, psychodrama. I think after you have a magical experience, you might start seeing how this stuff makes sense in different ways and why they're all connected. It's hard to explain. It's almost like a puzzle gets rearranged and you're like, oh, that's the actual right picture, but everything is still there and connected in a way. It's just swiped around a little bit differently. That's been my experience.
So you would say that with your experience, you became more attuned to decoding the reality you're inserted in.
Yeah. It was almost like, things would start flashing in front of my face, tarot and just certain ideas, Kabbalistic things, crystal stone, or whatever. And it's almost like it just goes like a zoetrope of them like flashing forward. And it's like you see this continual connection between all of them, like this golden thread, and it makes sense. I don't know how to explain.
So it becomes as a book with a language that you can't understand.
Yeah,
And suddenly you're getting words and you're getting words of it and you start to make sense.
Yeah. It's almost like starts to put together the whole paragraph right. And you're like, oh, okay. It's that weird. It's like almost to where it's like you'll even hear it being said to you, but you're not. It's even hard to explain with that.
Dude, that's why so many magicians use the cut up method, because it's almost exactly like that.
Yo, right? Yeah. I've thought that before. I was like, that's kind of like, you mismatch, mixing shit up again. And it's like, oh, that's the way it was supposed to be. I wouldn't even say it's like part of the chaos with magic. Is the rewiring, the rethinking.
The cut up method is it's from the guy who wrote the book Naked Lunch. I forgot his name.
Oh,
but
that was a while.
Right. He would
like huffing shit.
Right. He would cut these words out of magazines and newspapers and then scatter them all over the place. And then based off of where they were next to each other, he would get whole new meanings out of these words. And then that would sort of represent what he was divining for, or, having to do with this ritual. And so we've interviewed a bunch of people from Temple of Set, and they all swear by that method as sort of this pre-planning phase in their magical rituals, is using the cut-up method to form new sentences and new ideas from what they were using.
That's interesting. I would even say, even with like basic shit, like there was like just like certain things that like I'd remember from like news or like stories about Crowley or other people, where it's just like all of a sudden like all the things that are being told, it's like, wait, but that image is exactly what you should even start to wonder, is it you putting together the bullshit that's even being put in front of your face? Because you start to see how it actually makes sense in the tale that you've been looking at the whole fucking time, but never fucking understood it. You see it being retold in so many different ways in TV and shit.
And regarding your research in vampires, did you connect more or research more into the psychic vampire or into the classical term of the blood vampire?
Yeah, I guess it would be more of that. I did cover at the beginning. I mean, this is the whole thing with this whole vampire as well. You will have these ancient gods and these religions that have something that's sort of like that. It's something that just either will suck your blood or sucks your energy. But when you start getting to when the word vampire was actually used, that is somebody who died, came back, and sucks your blood. When you start looking at this and looking at people that have actually, cases where bodies have been exhumed and things, hearts pulled, motherfuckers staked, hearts pulled out, motherfuckers burned, or even, doing shit with the heart. All of this, any of these cases, all follow tuberculosis or rabies. These people were scared to fucking death of what the fuck was going on. So they had to find a bad guy. They had to find a fucking, a solution, which they were handed, and some of them even come from court. The whole staking is for what you do to a murderer that came from fucking court. And then you take some of these old, again, going back to the ancient ones, you take some of their little bit of traditions and bring it into how you deal with it now. And this is how you sell the public the cure to their fucking manic over TB. And the cremators make a couple of fucking dollars out of it too.
Sure. But you have these cases in countries around the.
I have Poland, Russia. Those motherfuckers were out during the day. So where's the sunlight fucking allergy to them?
Sure.
It's bullshit. What Bram Stoker picked was like a few things out of like 20 fucking different things that have supposedly happened between like Rhode Island and a couple of other countries in Europe, and just was like, oh, this is going to sound good. And like, they were never sexualized or considered sexy. So we'll throw that in because the public loves sex and we can just fucking chill on that.
But you are aware that around the Carpatans and even some more distant countries, we are finding these burials where the skeletons are not only maimed, so they are completely tied. They put a huge rock in their mouth. They open their mouths and they put a huge rock into it.
Cover that, yeah. At one point, when they thought that people might have been vampires, they stuck shit in their mouth. They lifted their fucking neck up. They bounded their fucking throat. All this silly shit because they thought they were gonna fucking. That's one thing too. It's like, yo, where did we ever start thinking that something will just die and somehow magically come back to life? Like if
Well,
there
something's
was
dead, I
a,
mean, like how
Lazarus.
how is an
You have
unanimated-
Lazarus.
Well, again, that's something you and I weren't there to fucking witness, so we don't know if it's true or not. You know what I'm saying? We can
wasn't
go on fucking beliefs or faith, but I don't understand scientifically how something can die and then reanimate and move your body. You're somehow your nervous system is going to kick back in. You're going to move. You're going to fucking talk. You're going to act normal.
Well, I have
Explain to me is science. How the fuck that's possible?
well, I have books
If we want to go by old tales, well, we haven't seen it in front of our faces in a long time to actually show proof, have we? None of this has been in our faces to show proof. We're
it
old tales.
wasn't exactly the same, but didn't Alexander and he was still alive, and I forget what
People
actual
can be buried when they're not dead. I cover that. That does happen.
it's different, but I think Alexander was kind of in a stasis where he was alive but basically dying, and so they thought he was dead, and he stayed in a condition that was not depictive of a dead person for quite a long time, but he actually had this disease that kept him basically dead, immobile, but almost like maybe he might wake up. I forget what the disease was, but
It was even
just something that people kind of got fanciful about.
Catholicism.
Just real quick, Ricardo. Just real quick.
Sorry.
I did add this in there. There was, I forgot the name of it. It was a pellagra or something like that. That was even common in certain areas, and the side effect of that would actually be scaly, flaky skin, and sensitivity to the sun. So I mean, like you're even taking things that are fucking problems from other issues and adding it to a vampire and Dracula.
Right.
That goes back to Vlad the Impaler. He never fucking died and he never sucked blood. How the fuck are we making sense of that?
Well, they put that on
story.
Yeah, they put that because of the stakes, because he killed these people on the stakes and it took time to die and it was very gory. Yeah.
Also body theft. So somebody stole his body and they went to exhume it and it wasn't there. So they've had problems in that region with body theft a lot.
And but that was the early years of medicine, and they were stealing bodies to open them up and study them and all of that kind of stuff. But
think about a few years ago, Ricardo. People who were scared of people who got the shot started coming up with ideas that they're fucking flaking and they're going to get other people sick because they're fucking scared. What's the difference?
Whoa, yeah, exactly the same thing. But
come on.
You have this belief from Christians that when the bodies did not decay, right? For instance, there is this convent of Carmo in Lisbon, where they have these bodies that people didn't decay, and the hair is still growing, and the nails are still growing to this day, and they have 300 years or 400 years old, right? And they consider them saints. But in the past, they could, instead of considering them saints, they probably looked at, this guy still raises up in night and goes about, and is the reason why we have these situations. Right?
I covered the hair and nails thing. I'm not saying this is your situation, because there are times where that happens, and if you look at it, I do think there was a thing I was going to cover with these monks that would, to my opinion, they were experiencing magic. They're separating their soul from the body, and when they do eventually die, their body's like fucking maintained like for so long before they. But besides that, I did even cover back in the day, you didn't know that when someone dies, they may shrivel. So their nail beds will go back, which makes their nails look like they grow longer. And when their skin fucking sucks in, their hair might look like it grew a little bit longer. So and they didn't know that rigor mortis goes away after a while. So when they're opening up these corpses, it looks like they grew hair. Their nail beds are back and they're not rigid anymore. Oh, they're a vampire.
Yeah. In this case, in the monastery, the hair is actually huge.
No, I believe that. I have
it's huge.
As the muscle tissue degrades, as the body is decomposing, sometimes it will move.
Yes.
So that's enough for me to terrify the fuck out of me. If I'm in with a dead body and it starts to jolt and stuff, man, dude, that's horrific,
We had a situation in the 90s where this famous musician was on tour in Portugal and he was sleeping on the back of a van. So they had a huge accident, right? And he was projected through the side of the van into the outside, and he was declared dead. But his wife never believed he was actually dead. So she managed by court to get a permit to take the coffin out, right? Because he didn't believe the guy was dead. And once they opened the coffin, it was all scratched. The body was all shriveled. So the guy woke up 3 days or 4 days later inside of the coffin under the earth, because in Portugal they bury people very quickly. They don't wait the 48 hours or something like that. 24 hours later they could be cremated or already underground.
Imagine you weren't dead and you got cremated.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's just insane. So after that happened, they increased the period because it was a national scandal, right? So they increased the period because the guy suffered a lot. The coffin was really all marked and so on. So it can happen. People can be declared dead and they wake up 4 or 5 days later.
Yeah. There was things I even mentioned in there, how like people were known for that would happen. And sometimes you'd even see that they'd start eating their arms and shit. Yeah, so they thought like that as a vampire or something. You know, I don't know.
Well, the books that I have on the current schools and churches of vampires, they all try to focus people into psychic vampirism.
Oh yeah.
And consensual. So they will try to get you 2 or 3 followers, and they allow you to suck that energy. But again, is a self-actuation thing, because you believe you are a vampire. There's nothing in there to tell you that you actually are one. So
that's a good point. I'm glad you brought this up. There was even something I mentioned that in some area they believe that during, like, if it wanted to come into your house, it would turn into, I don't know if it was like a needle of hay or a feather, and just go through your doorknob. So I'm like, so where's the permission this one needs?
Yes.
Come on. You know, and it's 12 o'clock during the day. The guy has no problems with the sun, and he just, goes right through your keyhole. This guy must be top dog.
Well, I think the problem with the sun is more like folklore than actual lore among people that believe they are vampires. Although, if you relate, and you study this for sure in your paper, the condition that makes you iron deficient also makes you sensitive to the sun. So these people that drink blood to get the iron from others people's, right? Because in these books they also speak of if you want to actually drink blood, also have people that will give it to you freely, right? And they feed out of this of the blood, and they can regain the iron that their body is not able to produce, and that also gives them the sensibility to the sun. So I think at a certain point that people joined one and one and thought it was all of them were incapable of being in the sun, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Wild, right? Yeah. That's really the only thing I think you really even absorb if you drink blood is the iron.
The iron, yeah.
It seems kind of archetypal, right?
That's what I think. It's more of a story of somebody who actually had a magical experience and died. Look,
I of the many special people that I met in my journey, there is this fellow, this doctor. He's all 80 something years old, and he was talking about this ritual where they kill the bull when you're baptized as a soldier, and you're placed beneath the altar, and when they slaughter the throat of the bull, you're bathed in the bull's blood, right?
The Torabolium.
Yeah, and that gave you a sensation of like cocaine almost, because they would drink that and they'll feel that they are invincible, all covered in the bull's warm blood of the bull. So the blood has been in these rituals for a long time, and I think that vampires are just a variant of the deviant, what they consider the deviant, because they were independent. They didn't serve anyone but themselves and their interests.
That was all of the priests in Rome. They had to go through that. So even the priestesses too, they would go through the Torabolium, and that was part of their sacrificial thing going on. That was involved with a lot of the Etruscan stuff. So the Etruscans were really big into blood ritual. They were weird. You think the Romans were weird? The Etruscans were like 10 times worse.
And let's not forget that the now is now a king, right? Charles in England.
Oh, yeah.
He is so Vlad the impaler, is his grandfather aunt. You knew that?
Grandfather
Hmm.
aunt.
Yes.
Wait.
So I don't know how to say it properly in English. So it's grandfather and aunt
His
because his
grandfather's.
Yeah.
Sister.
probably. So
Yeah.
he's of his family, right? Two or three or four generations back or
Yeah.
whatever. So he's of the and he says it openly. So I didn't
Right.
caught this in someone saying it. I caught him
Yeah.
speaking about
He
it
was
on an
bragging
interview.
about it.
Yeah, probably, yeah, right.
So, because let's not forget that they were Germans. They changed the name to Windsors because of the World War, and they didn't want to be connected to that because they replaced the English bloodline with the German bloodline because there was no successor. So they moved from Germany into there. They're actually Germans. I can't remember their actual family name, but they changed it to Windsor after they go into England. That's why
Right.
he's
Saxe
related.
Coburg Gotha. Saxe Coburg
There it
Gotha.
is.
So I think that even English people don't know about this, that their leaders, their king is German family, not British family, because they keep the bloodline. So he's still German.
Right. And it's a very interesting thing because Vlad the Impaler was a national hero. I mean, he's still revered as one of these founding father characters. And that war that he had against the Turks, he was badly outnumbered and nobody wanted to give him support. And he basically was the first terrorist warlord. And so his whole style and tactics were, almost revolutionary for the time, and doing all that psychological shit by having
Very
people
brutal.
impaled on the thing.
Yeah,
It was very brutal. But he's going up against an army that was outnumbering him 10-1, and he was still highly effective. So
yeah. You have to keep in mind that you have an army coming into his territory and go through these fields of impaled people. Like it's logical that someone started calling him something like a vampire because it was gory and
Right.
and death and in the most horrific way because it took hours to die because they stuck you from your scrotum and out of your neck, right? And then they raise you and stick the thing into the ground. It took 2 to 3 hours to die in that position.
they'd
So
put weights around your wrist if they liked you.
Nick is in shock.
Fuck.
If they didn't like you, they wouldn't put any weights around your wrists and your feet. They'd let it take a lot longer.
Oh.
Horrific, dude. But also the terrain in Wallachia where he was at was just absolutely brutal. It's just cliff faces everywhere. So the style of warfare that they were engaged in was mostly like siege warfare, and they were just trying to starve each other out and all the rest of this stuff. So having them have to fight throughout these bodies that are, basically the most horrific thing you've ever seen is just not going to make a very happy soldier. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, you'll be mentally distraught, to say the least, right?
Right.
What are we facing? Or what kind of animals are these people, right?
Absolutely cruel and vicious, it was but yeah, you could see where the whole New World Order gets its motivation. Maybe we just poison everybody just a little bit at a time over generations and see what happens. Maybe we'll poison their food. It's brutal. Like the people who think this way are just absolute scumbag. They're the scariest people throughout all of history, all the bloodlines mixed together.
When your scientist comes to you and say, "Oh, look, we just found out that fluor kills brain cells, so I think we should remove it." Remove it? No, no, no. Put it in the water of the system so they get dumb and dumb people obey quicker. So that's the kind of mentality we had from the people ruling the world.
Viciously competitive against everybody, including us. They're competing against us on some level, so they want to make us stupid and everything else. And we're kind of the last target because they've run out of stuff to do overseas. They're out of money, so now's the time to really attack us mentally.
Don't forget the words that I got from the culture representative in Portugal from the government. That is, after I've been rejected so many times in different places, I finally got to the ultimate instance to see if I was approved in my project. And she told me, "You have to understand this. our interest is not to increase the population's knowledge, but to decrease it. Right?
Jeez.
And the same person would come by chance, was the one who gave the speech when my twins changed school and went to the secondary. She was the one giving the speech of how important is education culture for creating the world of tomorrow. That's the same person. Okay, so what more can I tell you?
The bureaucracy makes these evil people think that they can just brainwash everybody. Unbelievable.
But they are not that
I was
secretive
thinking
about their
about
actions.
the idea
They don't need to be.
in relation to actual, like the biological parasitism that is the vampire idea, and the psychic energetic parasitism that there is in that. The permission idea is almost like, if you're weak, because in nature, you like the permission you give for an animal to attack you is that you're weak, you're not grounded. Same thing with psychic attacks. When you're not grounded, they ain't gonna ask you like, can I come in? The permission, I think, is, are you open, right? Are you energetically weak? And to that point, with the political attacks that we get, usually from internal institutions, not external ones, it's the permission is a toleration. How much we will tolerate is how much we give the permission to these institutions to dose us with fluoride and so on and so forth, right? So it's like toleration and permission, and weakness is kind of like when we stand up in a unity and formation against tolerating immorality, things shift, right?
Yeah, but in terms of individuals, and I'm sure Nick found this in his studies, is that there are people that are naturally inclined to drain others energetically. So how many times we heard about saying, I like that guy, but I came completely drained when I'm. So, and these people are not making it on purpose, or most of them aren't. But even in couples, the one of them feels completely drained, right? Because there's people that are actually inclined, instead of having a uniform field, they constantly feed of other people's field. So they put other people, make them weaker or drain or headaches or whatever you want to call it. It happens. There are people that are naturally inclined to drain other people's energy. Did you find that, Nick, on your studies?
I know about just in general anyway, but again, I didn't go from that angle. I went from just the original blood sucking,
Sure.
that whole vampire thing. But I myself, I've probably done that to people, and I've had people do it to me. It's just it's quite obvious that shit happens. Yeah.
And sometimes people feed off each other. That's for instance, friendships or loves. They constantly are changing their energy, and that makes them stronger instead of weaker. Gives them a sort of a connection. Yes. In the essence, I think it's all a matter of frequency. It just depends on that.
Hey, one other thing I did want to, I'll just mention, I wasn't going to say it before because I was like, I'll just leave it for the show, but it doesn't matter. When you were talking about the blood drinking and the iron, the blood drinking was even that was even a way of getting rid of TB around the same time. People are freaking out about fucking vampires.
No way.
Yeah. You'd have women lining up to drink
TB.
Pig's blood in the 1870s, thinking that shit was going to stop them from getting fucking TB.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Even drinking the blood is a way of curing TB, but somehow now vampires do it.
Well, I like to think that, considering who popularized it was Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
And his connections to special and high echelon groups, he probably knew something we don't at the beginning of our understanding of reality.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So there is half truth there. There is some half truth there, or or have flies that we should
Oh,
not
shit.
ignore completely.
No.
Yeah, but I think you are absolutely right, but the fact is that has to have a source. All of that fear has a source that is not necessarily the disease, but has some folklore that led them to that conclusion. Oh, that guy, it happens because that guy has this condition. The idea of that condition had to come from someplace, like tuberculosis and rabies that you're talking. They associated with some folklore that probably was half known at that time already, right?
That's exactly
Well,
right.
to get into Bram Stoker a little bit, he was kind of doing para-Christian mythology. So, you know, Dracula had to stay out of hell. So this is how he survived, is drinking the blood of the living. So he didn't want to have his soul go to hell. So he figured out a way to stay alive using living other people. So,
well, I find it more interesting because he refused to die, which to me is a
right.
very interesting concept. It's like getting out of the wheel of time, right? And basically, it falls into the biology of belief, and again, self-actuation. Because if you believe you can constantly regenerate yourself, even if you need to drink someone's blood to do it, it's still a process of self-actuation. So, and considering this is a biosuit that will do whatever you believe it will do, be it healing or whatever, it can be achieved through real self-actuation if you actually believe in it, right? And then it will become a cult because other people realize it can happen and helps them to create that self-actualization to themselves, right?
You mean like that other Walanchian noble, you know, Elizabeth Bathory,
For instance,
as she was bathing in the blood of these virgins that she would take from town?
yeah, to give them beauty. Yeah.
Oh yeah, somebody was telling me the other day it wasn't sure why I didn't include that in my vampire lore, and I was like, the bitch didn't die first. Then you have to die.
Well, not if you're immortal, then you don't have to die, right?
Yeah. I mean,
refusing.
that's the whole thing behind it. I mean, these people are getting exhumed. They're supposed to be dead. She never died. Bitch was never in a box. She's not a vampire. In that
Well,
sense. In that sense.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's an interesting concept, right?
Yeah.
Because most of
That's part
them
of it.
that probably believe themselves vampires have never died, and that's one of the reasons they are considered to be, right? You could say that Saint Germain was taught in the art of becoming a vampire, right?
See, him, I would say, might be closer to a real one than other.
Yeah, because if you see the Vampire Diary, the one with Tom Cruise, right? You are shown that vampires were very charismatic people, very knowledgeable. They speak
They were
very
very
languages.
Yeah.
Not so it's like the old saying that says the devil is not wise because it's the devil. The devil is wise because he's very old, right? So he learned a lot.
Around since the beginning of time.
So Satan is probably the first vampire in history because he's the first one not to die, right?
I like that. Oh, fucking Satan.
So
It
I
always
think
goes
that's
back to Satan.
I think that's the base of the Luciferian real religion, is the fact that they're looking for immortality the same way he did.
Well, if you wouldn't have broadened it out a little bit more, like if you think about the gods before the Bible, these immortal creatures that had these special powers, they were almost more like vampires than what we think of with the philosophical Platonic God, right?
Well, they are not immortal. They still die if injured.
And come back.
Not all of them, but yes.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Oh
Dying
yeah,
and
that's
coming
how I even
back.
put that out with the gods, like going to the underworld and coming back. I'm like, just kind of have almost the whole vampire shit there again.
Yeah. When I say that they
Yeah.
can die if injured, I'm not saying from natural causes, but
Yes.
they can go in battle and be killed and stay dead, right? But they can come back from small injuries, or a little bit like Wolverine, if you want to put it that
That's
way.
good, yeah, that's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
So it's not about a special metaphysical thing, but it's more like a self-actuation or healing, body healing thing that keeps regenerating your cells, right? Like you instruct your own body constantly not to go old or to regenerate or stay in the certain age. So
Like a Eucharist of sorts.
yes.
Come on. I had to go there.
So vampirism can be applied much more widely than just to the narrow
Right.
that Bram Stoker all made us look into.
Yes.
That's what I mean about half truths, because I think this is a much broader
Yeah.
subject than just focus to a creature that raises from a coffin and drinks people's blood. That's a simplifying version, and
Yeah.
the folklore associated with it.
So I even think I covered like one thing called the Upri or whatever. It's very close to vampire. Like that wasn't sucking your blood; it was an energetic one. You know what I'm saying? Like even most of like I think like what you're getting at. I mean, it leaves out the whole energetic sense, which is where I think a lot of that's kind of explained with the older gods and stuff.
Sure, and Nick, supporting your thesis, you have the case of this bat that has those permanent teeth and causes rabies very often, right? So that's the associations of this guy is biting other people. And
You know, it's funny. I didn't even go into the whole bat thing because I didn't want to make it look like I was really laying into it. But like even the whole thing, it's like, oh, this motherfucker turns into a bat and then back into a person. It's like,
yeah, but the bat comes from that. The fact that specific bat
with the rabies and
drinks,
everything. Yeah, maybe
drinks the blood of
should
animals.
edit in a 5-minute edit on that. You
Yeah,
got
and propagates rabies. So it
I
increases
never
the
realized the whole rabies and bat thing, but I
Yeah.
And COVID.
fuck. Yo, what was I saying? The people were thinking motherfuckers were flaking and you're gonna get fucking sick from them. It's the fuck same shit. As I was doing it, I was like, yo, this sounds like COVID.
It's so strange, man.
Yeah, like on
If
both
you-
sides, the shit people thought they had to do, fucking stay alive or not catch something on both sides.
if you really branch out with all of the vampire symbolism that you can imagine, it almost permeates every layer of society. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
Well, a lot
fucking
of werewolf
strange.
stories probably do, you know. Even start looking at werewolves, I'm sure you'd see. I was even thinking about that, but
Well, corruption feeds itself from the public, so it's a kind of vampirism in itself.
Think about when you're at a haunted house, right? You get all of these batteries that drain out immediately. Well, people experience that effect too. You could be walking through one of these places, and then all of a sudden you get hit and you lose all of your energy. You just feel like you need to pass out.
Well, I can tell you a very curious thing to probably to end the show. That one of the places that I can't say where I was when I was in my trip, I visit a place where they say that the Sasquatch uses a portal to leave that area of the country, right? And I was right in the middle of the portal, and I filmed all around me. I took pictures, and then I noticed there is this megalith that is tumbled instead of being erected. And I went there. There's a hole. Shows that it was very recently removed, and there is no rope marks on the megalith. There is no machinery marks on the megalith. All of the moss is intact, and it's not tumbled from the hole. It's moved like 2 feet away from the hole, like it was lifted in the air by magic and softly placed on earth, right? And I asked the guy that took us there, do you know if the megalith, the stone that now is tumbled, was erected? The guy, yeah, it was erected. So apparently they activate and deactivate this portal by placing the megalith in place or taking it out of the place, right? Because there's a lot of folklore in that area of even animals going through the and disappearing, right? So
Stone key.
yeah, a stone key. So, and I found it interesting that they say that the Sasquatch doesn't stay in that area for the winter. They move into another place, and that's how they move from there. They go through the portal.
How deep was the hole?
Sorry?
How deep is the hole?
Probably 2 to 3 feet, round. The shape of the exact same shape of the monolith by its base. So I didn't felt anything. I was right in the middle of it, and I said no power at all. There was another place near it that has this clearly artificially placed triangular stone, and there the power was very. It's like goosebumps without your skin reacting. You get kind of numb, and you feel it coming from your knees, from your ankles and knees, and going up. Even the camera guy had an experience there. He was not a believer, but he went out of there as a believer. Even have loss of time and space. I had to call him in the distance, and we are just in complete visible of one another. And he was completely lost when he came out of there. He didn't know where he was, or so.
Did you bring a compass?
Yeah, he changes the electromagnetic field. He had a device to measure it. Yeah, and the compass doesn't
Right.
work there. And in fact, the guy tried to fly the drone through the portal, and the battery was already low, but it was supposed to last for much longer. And as soon as he goes into close of it, it just died. The controller died, so he couldn't film there.
Right.
So all of that was interesting. But this all of what I meant is all of this folklore and beliefs, and are they real or not? They all feed into things like the vampirism, in this case, where they had this diseases, they had this people that they believe were coming out of their deathbeds and raising and attacking others. It's all related with that, with the bats, with the disease, with the folklore. There is some truth in it, but to what level is hard to understand.
Well, with that, I'd like to end with a Bible verse, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
So this was one I found recently. You might like this. This was a Matthew 15. Hold on. I'm almost there. Nope. There it is. All right. Matthew 27:52. The tombs were also opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went to the holy city and appeared to many. So this is Matthew 27:52 and 53. Somehow there was a zombie revival took place. And they all went into town.
And they all
And
went
everybody
into town. Yeah.
Right. But I guess nobody decided to record that except for this guy. One guy who saw that.
I think we should start. The Bible is very much quoted, but how about the other almost 100 books that are not included in the Bible? We start quoting from those books, because the perspectives are sometimes very different from what we get from this. Only Gospels alone, we have missing apostles. Why aren't we reading what they wrote? What is so wrong about what they wrote that they're not included in the Bible? So they
Maybe they had more
presumably been
zombie
in the same place
apocalypses.
at the same time.
Maybe they had more zombie apocalypses inside of these other books. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has been great. We're at an hour and 47. Thank you guys for joining us. And make sure to like and share the show. This was another Trialogue, and this is Headless Giant.
Tetralogue.
Tetralogue. There we go.
The 4 for Ethan. Let's not forget that.
That's right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.